I am live. Howdy. Waiting for a gang. I've never been more unprepared. And if you've seen my other stuff, you'll realize that is saying something. Oh, I turned this YouTube delayed channel off. There we go. Got it muted now. I'm good. I can check back to that if I need to. Yeah, having to deal with Chrome, which isn't my usual browser. I'm not sure what we'll talk about. This looks really good. This is my old Avis hat. I used to work at a job. I was choosing jobs for survival when I had to. Basically, I busted out in New York. And you talk about your grossness of, 30-year-olds living in the basement. How about a 60-year-old guy that busts out? And his only hope is to go home and have as far as quality of life goes, to go back to mom and his brother. But believe me, I paid for it. Oh, did I ever pay for it? It was tough. And here I am. I've outlived both of them. And I'm sitting here now in a house that's, was comfortable in 1960 and still comfortable now. It's ideal now, but it worked. The more I think about it, the more I blame myself for how much pressure I put on them. I was feeling just ungodly pressure myself. But it was just a sad collision. But anyway, I was talking about Avis. Avis is a funnier thing. If you're ever looking for a job that amounts to being like going back to high school when your primary joys are driving a car and turning on the radio and listening to it. Avis is kind of like that. Avis as a car mover transporter. You're a guy that's dealing with the rentals being dropped off and they're needing to be in another spot and having to have them queued up in a spot where the renters come to find them. And so there's this little, kabuki dance or whatever car movement that you're doing. So you're 90% of the job, you're by yourself in a car moving it. And it's pretty easy, except for some of the parking. As a guy that has always had like a kind of a phobia about moving cars he was unfamiliar with in tight spots, I had to move these big deluxe-sized trucks into this place we called the dungeon and reverse park them into tight slots. And most of those things come with those, almost everything nowadays comes on with cameras in the back for backup. And that's great. And they had about like a three-strike deal in effect, where if you scratch one of them, you're gone. I scratched too, so I was on my way out anyway. But no, I would say I had a good time, but unfortunately, it's like every job you have. The worst thing that can happen to you is having people you hate to be around. And oh man, it just seemed like they were multiplying by the time I got out of there. So it was good to see them gone, or see me gone. And what freed me from it all, of course, was social security, allowing me to say, okay, yeah, I've got some money coming in now, and do I want to be here? No, I don't. Got out. Planned on doing just a world of freelance. But it all takes planning. You have to wake up in the morning with a purpose. You don't. Right now, I am waking up with a purpose. I'm writing. Having a lot of fun writing a script. I got to check. I expected to be swarmed with guys by now. that are dropping in. Let's make sure I sent this letter. Let's see. Here's the link. That's what it says. Suppose that's a mystery to anybody? Maybe. Oh well. Well, I would not be on if I thought I was going to talk amongst myself for an hour. I could show you some art I've done. I'll just grab a handful of it. Whew. This is all just this thing. There's a Drawn and Quartered show called Drawn and Quartered on YouTube where people get together. And really, it's very challenging. You all start at zero. And you know the topic going in, so you can put some reference material together. Like tonight, it's Mad Max, and last weekend was Vampirella. I did that, and there's nothing to tell that doesn't, as an artist who has said many times himself that drawing is measuring, that doesn't know there's a lot wrong with that. I could take it into Photoshop and paint it and have a good time with it. If we got anything else worthwhile in here. These were a bunch of thumbnails that went into my book. You can find it on Amazon under Ellis Goodson called, what is the name of that book? It's called Free Cat and 30 Other Odd Tales. So all of them took having a thumbnail before I tore into a finished illustration, and in a lot of cases, the thumbnail, I would, the composition would remain the same. And like I say, I typically like thumbnails better than I do my art. I know I did my quick sketches and all that. And I'll do drawings like this that are just, goofing off. I did this thing that got a lot of hits on Tumblr, I believe. Iron Man in his own crater. That's typical. That's a superhero landing, isn't it? Create a crater. There's a Hellboy I did. I digitally painted this. Had kind of a breakthrough in digital painting. There's a artist that does really good tutorials called I'm not going to come up. There's one I did of a guy named Cecil. I've been getting his reviews of Game of Thrones because I've been using you could call it torrent kind of source that kind of dried up for me. So here I am. I'm 3 deep on a season. Now I can't see the final 3, and I've discovered, spoilers be damned, these after shows where they talk about it, show a lot of clips of it. It's just as satisfying. I'm caught up. I know what's up and everything. Most of this stuff has been published on my Tumblr account called Weird Ellis. You ought to be able to get on Tumblr and type in Weird Ellis. Let me double check these guys. See the inbox. See if they're saying something didn't work for them. Sent the link. Somebody subscribed to me on YouTube. Diversity and Cecil, that's it. That's the Cecil we were talking about. Doug TeNapel is live right now. Earthworm Jim hits 140K. I went for it. I went for both books, and I think that cost me $75. I think that was the top cost. Easily worth 100. This is the kind of stuff that I really see. That little figure there holding someone over his head. See, that kind of stuff is easy and quick to do, and it can lead to a decent drawing because you haven't overthought it. Oh, here's my old comic book published back in '95 called The Bounty of Zone Z. 9 copies remaining. There's ever such a thing as a chat, and I was going to go online or do something with these and sell all 9 copies with one quick little like con level sketch like I do, and maybe sell all of them and have enough to buy a little Cintiq with. That was the idea. Like most of my ideas, like my coloring book idea, I've kind of just whatever tabled it or whatever to when I want to get back to it, I guess. Put these under wraps where I don't hurt them. Because I may still do something with all those. After all, what is a comic book that there's only 9 copies left worth? This is the script I'm working on. I've posted a few things as I did them. I would just completely redo all my character designs for all this, and but the script is really giving me. I mean, I'm just having a kick doing it. Just looking out my back window, doing a sketch of a tree. Oh, here were all the character designs. This was just me saying, get off the dime and start doing something on the idea that you allegedly have. There's a little something. I could try to sell that at a auction. Oh, and some of my little sketches for In-World. This is probably one of my better ones as far as coming out. Look at that, focus on that. Too hot. And you hope you improve, but I've been in amber basically for this. This dates back to, does it have a date on it? Sure does. Hang on. 95, baby. That's the year I did that comic book. Probably as good as I ever got. There's a lot of these are in another one of my books called Sticky Doodle on Amazon. If you're interested in looking at some of this artwork. All of this was for In-World. This would typically be a $40 freelance project. They were beautiful to work with, and $40 is $40. But of course, it's also probably worth more in terms of like effort and time spent. But us artists, we're our own worst enemies. I have there was some concept art for the game Up, which I worked on when I lived in Culver City. Oh, that's pretty cool. I've got another version of this sitting around frame somewhere. Where did that come out of the frame? I don't know. I was really big into Ben Caldwell when I drew that. You can probably see that. That's interesting. It's interesting to discover your own work or discover your own drawing and say, yeah, I don't remember that.
Ellis.
Yo, hey. You guys finally decided to join me so I can quit talking to myself.
Is anybody else here?
No, you're it.
Oh, okay. Hang on just a second.
Okay.
I need to run downstairs and I, I I started a pot of coffee and came up here.
Oh, you know what? I'm such a dummy. I guess I could have sent the link without broadcasting. And instead, I acted like the only way to get a link was to start broadcasting. So, my
It's cool.
bad.
Just give me about 5 minutes. I'll be back.
Okay.
Okay. You can. But I've got my phone on my paper. So
Okay, I got you. I got you. Well, that was Scott, and he'll be here shortly, and we'll talk because it's usually pretty easy to talk to Scott. Might have some other guys joining us that are typically on a podcast together called Classic Cinema Podcast. I believe our next thing we were going to watch Sunset Boulevard, which I have not seen since saw it in a film class in Edmond. Taking a film class, and William Holden was pretty good. And you're talking about a movie that starts with your narrator. Say, there I am. I'm dead. So that's unconventional. It's I just remember it being like I think it's been done to death, of course, by now, because everyone loved that movie, and they thought, "What a great character! Let's revisit it." And, a lot of TV today, when I was growing up, were all doing remixes of Sunset Boulevard. They were, let's take that idea and run with it here for this. You might see where typically would you see that sort of thing. Well, some police detective would wander in. The stranger in town concept. That's what all the old detective shows were always. Because no matter what they were up to, they were going to wander in as a stranger in town in their new situation. They'd wander into some decrepit rich guy's lair, or they'd wander into the decrepit hippie's lair, or whatever. They didn't belong there, and they had to navigate their way around. There he is. Nope, just a sound. He's readying himself. He will draw alive.
Are you talking about me, Ellis?
Yeah, I guess so.
Has anybody else joined?
No, nobody else is here. Like I say, I probably did this in a flawed way. I think I could have waited till as many people as were going to be here, and sent out the invite earlier. I know you can, because that's how they do the drawn and quartered.
Well,
I just did it wrong.
I had emailed you and asked you if you'd send it out early.
Yeah, and that's what this amounts to, is early. Yeah. Well, I just did it wrong.
Oh, hang on just a second. Let me mute. I'm watching this on my iPad because I can see.
Do you want to just see you? There you go.
No. On my iPad, I can see if anybody's talking. I got my phone up on this contraption, so you can see what I'm working on. But yeah, the actual broadcast through YouTube is a little bit delayed.
Yes, so, it is. Yeah, it'll drive you nuts if you try to have. Well, yeah, you definitely need the sound off.
So I went to Arkansas last weekend.
How was that?
It was Arkansas.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. No. It was okay. I mean, I saw my in-laws, of course. My wife is not from Arkansas, but my in-laws. Hang on, I'm getting a weird shadow. My in-laws retired there to Bella Vista.
Bella Vista.
And we hadn't seen them in a while, so I said, "Hey, we should go visit your parents." And so we went there, and we went to. There's a big museum there that, of course, is sponsored by Walmart. It's the Walmart, but it's called Crystal Bridges, and
Hmm.
it's kind of a weird. I mean, I go to a lot of art museums. Michelle and I travel some, and it's got a weird collection of art because there doesn't seem to be. It had a little bit of. I think their theme is American artists, but there were some people in there. I forget who it was. There's somebody I saw, and I was like, "Well, that's not an American." So I don't know what they're. It seems to be pretty scattershot on what they're collecting. Um,
Well, it sounds pretty classy for Arkansas. Um,
yeah, and that was the thing. It seemed real, and some of the ways the art. They had one room that had art all over the wall, and some of the art, and it had a caption that said, "There's a collection of portraits," and it was all artist portraits. But some of them were so high up in the air. I mean, they're probably hung 20 foot in the air. And it's just like, well, it's more like the art was a display of, than something you would study for its own merit,
but
you know.
yeah, you want
Uh,
your grubby kids having access to
yeah, or something. Well,
getting to it or something.
it was so high up. It just, and I felt that I felt that about most of the museum, that just had kind of an odd feel to it. It definitely did not feel like a regular art museum, or a
I have
retro
been,
one, I should say.
a Di-
They
a Dixie Mafia front, probably
do what?
a Dixie Mafia front.
Maybe so. It's a Walton family law tax
Oh yeah,
shelter.
yeah, some sort of dodge.
I don't know, but
Sam Walton, Sam's Club. Yeah.
the 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 one thing that it did have that was kind of cool was it had a Frank Lloyd Wright house that had been disassembled and moved there.
Oh, the Usonian home.
It was a Usonian home, exactly, which
Mhm.
I would have a problem with. Not a problem, because I mean they can do whatever they want to do, but I mean if it were any of the other ones, because Frank Lloyd Wright, uh, he did a lot of commercial buildings, but he did a lot of houses. Well, at some point, he decided that he wanted to be the guy to make those Usonian homes, which was his idea of kind of an everyman kind of house. It's
Right.
really small house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but his custom houses were very location dependent. And so it seems I wouldn't want somebody to move one of those out of its location, like falling water, for example.
Oh yeah. Oh
If
yeah.
you took it off the waterfall, then what's the point? But those Usonian houses were typically, not they weren't custom houses necessarily. It was kind of his attempt to make a model home, I guess. Even though I think they were still, it was kind of cool, but it was real small. And we Michelle and I had been through a Frank Lloyd Wright house before. Up in Wichita, there's one that was a custom house, and it's huge and it's pretty cool. And they have you could if you're ever in Wichita, you could tour it, but you got to do it in advance. And if you don't have it's one of those deals like my wife and I wanted to go. Well, they said, well, it's a minimum of like 15 people. And so it's like, well, can I buy 15 tickets? And they're like, well, yeah. And so it's like, okay. So that's what we had to do, or however many it was. I think it was like 10 people, and it was.
What, $5 a throw at
Yeah,
least?
I think I spent $60 on it.
Wow.
So yeah, but I mean, that's not something I
Well,
could say.
you got a private tour.
Well, yeah, we took Michelle's grandparents with us,
Oh well.
but I mean, yeah, they I don't know if they appreciated it, but they didn't hate it.
It didn't grouse too much, huh?
No, they did not have artistic souls, I don't believe, but they thought it was kind of a neat house, I guess. But most of his houses, to me, it seems like they're cool, but man, just owning something like that. And I was talking to the girl that was like kind of there. I don't know if she was like a curator or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she was telling me that, and I had read this, that he would visit people who he had built a house for. And if they had moved furniture, he'd ask them for like a glass of water. When they went to get it, he would move the furniture back how he wanted it. you
That's
know.
funny.
And
Like they messed with his feng shui.
oh,
Yeah.
exactly, man. He was very, and I'd heard stories about how, when he traveled the world, he would see like a vase or something or a lamp that he thought would be perfect in a house. So he'd buy it and send it to the owner, and then send him a bill. You
So
know,
you needed this, whether
yeah,
you
this
can afford
had
it or
known
not.
it existed. Yeah, because most of his houses had either built-in furniture or custom furniture.
Well, think about that guy that comes in and storms the family and Jeff. Is it Jeff Jones? Just hates his guts in Beetlejuice. The guy dressed all in black, and he's the
Oh yeah,
super style guy, and he instantly starts dictating what they've got to do and what walls to tear down and all that. He sounds like he's a little bit like that.
yeah.
You know,
Oh,
you
I was.
type A creative personality is kind of interesting to be around. I mean, it's like that's the personality that becomes the guy that's in charge of saying, "Give me this, give me that."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess so. I mean, and when
The
you're
only other way to do it is the way you can do it the way I do it, which is kind of stealthily by being the one man show, and you can still produce like that,
yeah,
but you know
yeah,
the type A type or the big number types,
yeah. See,
like the Doug TenNapel
oh
Earthworm Jim comic book. He just
yeah,
went live with 140K breakthrough.
oh my gosh.
140K
I
to
wonder. I wonder. Well, but and I mean, I don't know him obviously, but he always seemed to like a guy to me that kind of knew how things ran.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Doug was always smart enough, and anybody ought to be smart enough to know that if you don't know how to do it, get somebody who does. That's about as smart as anybody should have to be. But of course, most of us find it daunting that but if I find somebody that does know how to do things, how much does that cost? You start worrying about how much. You got to know what you want. All that. It's got to be, you got to have it pretty well solidified in your mind.
yeah.
I've been seeing some of this stuff. All of it, I have to do research on by the time I catch up with it. They're all talking about some sort of recent controversy, and they're all using the initials WC. So I got no idea what WC means. And it apparently means war campaign, which is kind of a adjacent kind of thing to Comicsgate. They don't want to call themselves in some way Comicsgate. They want to just say, "We're with you, we're indie," or whatever. But I
Yeah.
think I think they're a little more like, "Hey, not everybody's Christian in the world," or whatever. And they're a little more rough to edge, and they, a little more got a little more testosterone, or try to have. And there apparently some squabbling going on back and forth, and it's like, I'm sure it's interesting and all that, but all that stuff is like, who wants to get in some sort of troll flame war?
Oh, who's got time for it, man? That's
Yeah, I
what
know it.
I don't have the time for this crap. Anytime I'm on like Facebook or something and some controversy starts, I tap out
Yeah,
because I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't care. I don't. Uh, I'm not super worried about being called names. I've been called names before or whatever, but I'm not going to argue because the
well,
thing.
I would have to look for being called names, I guess, because like I say, I'm so. By the time I catch up with it, the fight has gone on.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's just to me the whole thing is kind of dumb. I mean, comics are typically like a marginalized industry anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what I can't. I can't imagine ever going to my beloved San Diego Comic Con, or at least I had such a sweet spot when I was going to those. I was living there, and they were at the height of where they were on their maximum growth arc, and I still got to see them while they were still kind of small, being spread out all over downtown San Diego.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun, and I can't imagine that it would becoming a hostile place to be. You know,
Yeah, I want to do an episode of my podcast about San Diego. Maybe I should do it when you're on.
yeah, sure.
That's Hey, the week that I'm off, I'll record a podcast with you on, and we'll talk about San Diego.
Um, tell about your podcast.
Oh, I do a
Someone may watch this.
I do a podcast. Here's the thing. I do several podcasts, and if you do a podcast with other people, sometimes you don't get to talk as much as you'd like. Just out of because you don't want to
Sure.
talk over people.
Right.
And plus, a lot of stuff I talk about isn't really in line with what we talk about on our podcast. So I started doing it, and originally it was going to be 15 minutes, but my last episode was like 30 minutes. So they tend to kind of spread out a little farther than I think they should. But it's called Scott at Midnight. It's available on YouTube, or YouTube. It is on YouTube, but it's on iTunes. And basically, I just talk about stuff that interests me. I want to do one on architecture, Ellis, because I'm really interested in architecture.
Well, I'm a big fan of architecture. I always am right-clicking images that strike me and all that. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things. I'm not sure I know all the terms, and I'm not sure I know what I'm looking at when I look straight at it. I know some of the architects. There's a couple of guys that were big in LA during a certain period. I really like their work. In fact, I think it's like in my mind a kind of a dream. My dream home would be some of these guys that were big deal architects at the time in the 50s, 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I can't tell you off the top of my head. I used to know names. I used to have I used to have a lot of books.
In LA in the 50s, there was that big, I forget what they called it, like coffee shop or whatever, but it had the big awnings and the big swoopy lines, and there was a lot of commercial buildings that used that kind of thing in LA.
Well, there was a particular kind of ranch type spread out that you only saw in desert kind of environments because you just wouldn't. Well, you do ranch type spreads, but you almost always have peaked roofs around in this part of the country.
Yeah.
These fairly often would have these flat roofs, and they'd have little details that would come out and meet the grounds, basically little
kind of like an edge of an awning or something.
Yeah, something like that. Or just little partitions or something that just happen to be in the middle of a bunch of rocks.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. Somebody doing designy stuff all the way off the front porch to kind of meet anybody that's coming at you. And I always thought, and when I got to California, I realized, that's all I've been thinking I wanted way back in '85. I saw that stuff and I said, this is where all the George Powell architecture comes from that I always used to like in my movies. And it's like, this is fun.
Yeah, straight off of Hollywood Boulevard or wherever. Yeah.
Walking around the University of La Jolla down there, it was very, very fun to look at everything over. I'm really surprised. You could not be me in the period of time where I was in California, and by the time I'd left it, my biggest hobby was walking around. That was I would just take off on big walks, and I don't think anybody could survive that kind of lifestyle nowadays. I think you'd ultimately be challenged by good guys and bad guys.
Oh, probably.
There's just too much of stuff going on nowadays. Too much paranoia.
Well, I'd like to think that California, it's worse in California than a lot of other places, but it's probably equally bad in a lot of places.
Well, it's like any place, the old frog boiling. Basically, he doesn't notice it. Because he's right in the middle of the soup, so
Yeah.
that probably would be true. I could probably go to California and readapt to it pretty quick. I just noticed my wallet was much, much lighter very,
Yeah.
very quickly.
Yeah. After first day of rent, right?
Yep.
So what was the last year you went to San Diego?
Oh Lord, man, what was it?
Did you go after 2000?
Oh yeah, shoot, yeah.
Did you go
I've
into?
got YouTube videos of probably 2010, something like that.
Oh, so you've actually been since I've been.
Well, I mean, whenever I split, I managed to cram one in. One of the last things I did was cram in a San Diego Comic Con
Oh yeah,
before I came back.
you're like, this is the last time I can do this. I'm buying airfare.
My friend Bob had an extra ticket. I said, sure, yeah, I'd like to go.
Oh yeah, I sent off for my pro badge for San Diego this year, which I did last year. I got one last year.
You didn't get your pro badge for New York.
Oh no, I got denied, and then I sent an appeal, and they changed their mind.
Oh, good job. Good job. That shows you the squeaky wheel.
Yeah.
Gets it done.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't really know what I did to get denied or approved, but.
Or you think that was the big mistake they made, was just denying you up initially?
No. I just don't know. I just don't know what I did different or what I did, because I've never had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
One year I sent my application in after the deadline, and I told my wife, I go, I'm not going to get a badge, and I still got a badge.
Cool. I think it's going to be the Scott and Ella show again. Of course,
Yeah.
it's not. It's after 7.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. Well, today's Dave's birthday, so.
Oh, happy birthday, Dave.
Yeah. And Barry was kind of iffy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to be here inking anyway, so I might as well talk to you.
Yeah, we might as well spend about an hour and talk it over. I might, I'll check on those guys on the drawn and quartered. I'm I don't know if my ego needs another thrashing tonight. I ought to just dodge it and come back.
Don't be a wuss. You can take.
Well, you know what the topic is tonight?
What?
Mad Max. I ought to be able to do that.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be Googling Mad Max reference right now.
Yeah. Nah, I'll wait till the very last second.
Which
Mad Max should I do? Should I do
well,
Tom Hardy or good old Mel Gibson?
I think you gotta do Mel Gibson, dude.
That's the best.
Well,
he put more effort into it. He did 3 movies worth.
And you got to consider your audience there. Your audience is not going to be Fury Road fans.
Oh yeah, they are. Oh yeah.
Well,
the guys watching that show, yeah, they're all going to be recent Fury Road fans.
I bet there's more younger. I bet there's more people of we'll call it a traditional mindset watching that.
I don't know. They know so many things. I've got no idea what they're talking about. They're very up to date on stuff.
I just think they would like the original one better.
I would do whichever one I appeal to me more. The easiest one to caricature would probably be Mel. All you'd have to do is just do real clean symmetrical features, and you'd almost be doing a Marvel idealized superhero face for Mel.
Okay, let me put it a different way. Which one are the rest of the group less likely to do? That's what you should ask.
That is interesting. I imagine most of them will do Tom Hardy, I would think. Speaking of Tom Hardy, I've got it written down to remind myself I want to watch it. I'm going to finally get around to watching Layer Cake. Have you ever seen that?
Mm-mm. I don't even know what you're talking about. Layer Cake?
Layer Cake. It's a Daniel Craig movie, and I guess it's got Tom Hardy in it. It's supposedly really good. Gotta,
Yeah.
gotta catch up to it.
Never heard of it.
I've caught the tail end of it, which is, a great way to go to it. You know what? I
I've
was,
ruined it for myself.
yeah, I was sharing with this group when I was just combating dead air that I had been watching a torrent stream of Game of Thrones that
Oh
has
yeah.
has given up on me at the third one. So for 4 and 5, I just went to these websites that just just
Quote.
recap everything,
Oh
and
yeah.
which ordinarily would if you were trying to say, oh no, I must see it for myself. That is perfect for me. That's exactly what I want. It's like the whole story that I missed with a few of the visuals. Show me, like, I've seen all this Game of Thrones mayhem that went on in the last episode, and it's like, wow, cool. Now I know that happened. And so that's where I'll go out on it, is just seeing synopsises and catch up when I catch
Well,
up.
that's kind of why I watched when Ethan Van Sciver talked about Endgame, because I was like, this is going to get spoiled. Anything really crazy is going to get spoiled for me before I get to see it, because I still hadn't seen it.
Have
And
you, have you seen Endgame now?
no, not yet.
Go ahead.
Dude, I was in Arkansas last
Oh,
weekend.
yeah. Well, yeah, but it's been out for 3 weeks. All
Yeah,
right.
I know. Dude, I got a job.
True.
Yeah. I should go see it tonight. I had to do a podcast or whatever this is.
This is me still just playing around, putting content.
The Yeah. Do we have any? Is anybody listening to us? There's
I'm in
one.
3 watching now, supposedly.
Oh, really?
Yep. Probably Dave and Barry.
Yeah, probably. They're probably yelling at their microphone. Is my
Say,
link?
look, watch
Is my
this.
link working? I want to talk.
See, I was going to jump all over it if DL Dave joined us. I was going to say, hey, you guys know you're across the street from each other. I wanted the whole audience to know we were going to the trouble of streaming, and you're across the street from each other.
Yeah. Well, you can't come to my house.
Yeah, that's right. Dog won't have it.
So, so we had a plumber out this week because my upstairs shower. I have two showers upstairs, and it's been dripping. The faucet's been dripping. So we called a plumber to come out and stop, because it was getting really bad. And so we called out a plumber to stop it, and he got it working. I didn't we were using it. I didn't like We had to get all new like shower stuff, hardware,
Yeah.
and I didn't like it because it was low flow, which was terrible. But it wasn't bad. Well, then Michelle noticed that there were some tiles that were loose in that shower. So she called him, and he said, "Well, let me come out and I'll brace it. I'll cut the wall behind it because it backs up to kind of a little closet." He said, "I'll cut the wall and I'll brace it, and that way it won't, you'll be okay."
Right.
Well, he cuts it open, and so Michelle calls me, and she goes, "Well, we got bad news. We're gonna have to do more work. We're using the other shower, but there was a crack in the caulking." And she said, "You need to get silicone, or not silicone, but you need to get some sealant that we can put on that crack so we can use that." So I come home, I get it, I go by the place and I get it. I come home, and she shows me, and it's all the sheetrock is all messed up behind the wall. So we're going to have it. So on the way home today, she's telling me, "I think we're just going to have that bathroom redone." I'm going, "Oh man,
Turned
money."
into, from a slow leak, you turned into
Oh
a
yeah,
few $1,000s worth of.
oh, it gets even better. We were downstairs earlier tonight. I look up and I go, "Is that a water spot in the ceiling?"
Oh my God.
So so we've got a water spot somewhere. It's like, When it rains, it pours, man.
Yep. I've
This is
got
what it's to be an adult.
Oh, it's trying to be a homeowner to where it's constantly supposedly gaining in value if it doesn't fall down around your ears. Yeah,
Ellis, we owe like $30,000 on our house, and I think it's worth close to two.
there you go.
So I mean, I
It's money in the bank.
yeah, and I mean we didn't pay near that for it. We paid, I don't know, 110, I think.
It's one of the best ways to create wealth for yourself, according to Adam Carolla. Is get out there and buy that house. Of course, if you don't hang on to it and you can't
Well,
turn
yeah,
a profit on it, you'll wonder about the wisdom of having thrown all that money at your mortgage.
yeah, but you got to live somewhere.
Yeah, you got to live somewhere, and you might as well, like you say, be living in something that can be sold. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you and your house in L.A. you didn't sell that, so you can get your money out of that. But how long did you live there? You didn't live there for a super long time, did you?
No, I lived in a succession of condos that could be sold, but the last thing I did was I screwed myself with living in a situation where I had a go between because I couldn't find a bank that would loan me the money for the unit I wanted in the park I wanted to that was right next in Culver City, right next to where I was going to be working. And I wanted that unit so bad that I went to a third party with this woman that financed me that was just, she just totally stiffed me for after all those years of paying that money. She just legally just pulled the rug out from under me on once I told her I was in duress and that I would have to you know maybe skip a payment or two. No,
Oh yeah.
it was foreclosure time,
Oh yeah. Well.
and it was just boy, that was hard to take. It
Oh,
was
sorry to dredge up those memories, dude.
no, that's all right. It's
How long did you live there?
well, in that particular place, I bet I lived there for 4 years, which is a long time for me in Southern California. I probably, on average, before that, moved about once every year and a half.
Oh,
And then
gee.
I lived there from '86 on, so to 2010. So 10, whatever, 25 years almost of living there and averaging a new place to live. I probably lived 20 places when I was in Southern California. Of course, I lived in San Diego, all over it, El Cajon, Orange County, Newport Beach. Uh, I've even lived in my truck for a while.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I lived all over,
The
and it's weird to think how what a, a unadaptable guy I became when I finally moved back here. Like I just I guess some sort of like fear overtook me that I just couldn't cope and had to have some place that offered security, and back I came. But
the
always before, well, for one thing, I just became certain in myself that I was just so unemployable that I could never live in a place where I could afford to have a living circumstance again.
hmm.
I just got old enough that nobody was even thinking about hiring me for anything.
You lost your mojo.
Hmm. Lost my mojo, lost any confidence I had in my ability to scrap my way around. I was just having fun when I was a younger person, saying it didn't matter what came up. But as you get older, all of a sudden it matters. It's kind of sad that way. That
Yeah, it should be
you
the opposite.
lose all that.
Well, the I know a guy. I don't want to say how I know him, but I know a guy who is separated from his wife, and they had a house, and they lived there for like 19 years, and she basically moved out, and he couldn't afford it by himself, and she refused to sign any paperwork, and he ended up getting the house repossessed, and it sold because and he'd paid on that house for like 19 years, and he got nothing out of it.
That's phew, that can happen.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I mean, 4 years is nothing,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, 4 years on a mobile home, yeah, or a manufactured home, or what would you call that? Well, they call a mobile home
Did it have wheels
manufactured
on
home.
it?
Huh?
Did it have wheels on it?
Well, I think they all have to have wheels on them to be classified in a way that they have to have the potential to get under them and move them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, but well, yeah. Oh, so is that what you had in California? Where you were
Yeah.
buying?
Well, the last thing I had,
Oh, yeah.
it was
But
a great little park in Culver City. That's the place that I used to walk. There's a big tributary that feeds from Culver City into a lot of stuff. It'll take you all the way to the big cemetery. I live next to a cemetery called Holy Cross, right next to Holy Cross. It's got a lot of. I used to go over and see, Bela Lugosi and
oh no.
Bing Crosby and all these guys. I'd look up graves to go check out, and Sharon Tate. Uh, they're all up there.
Nice.
But anyway, that overland that went right in front of the house, um, I'd walk all the way down it for like several miles, and it took me right by the what was the old Paramount Studios, which is Culver City Studios now,
That's part of your walk,
or is it called
Hollywood.
something else now? Yeah. Well,
Gotcha.
yeah. I mean, so I was that close to good paying work and all that. To go back, I'd have to go back after sending out resumes. There's a really funny I think it's Channel 101. Drew Carey did this little film, a little short about a guy that comes out to Hollywood based on a response. He says, "Yeah, come on out. We got work for you." And I guess this is such a typical story that it works its way into the fiction of shorts and stuff like that in Hollywood a lot. People come out thinking all right, I got a job. They get out there and they find out someone was almost messing with them. They get all the way out there and there is no job.
Oh yeah.
And, so that happens. Of course, that's kind of the plot of Dead Man too. If you've ever seen that Johnny Depp's movie where he travels all the way across country to the end of the line and then finds out they were just messing with him.
oh gee. That was also the plot of Pee Wee's Big Adventure.
Kind of, yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, your bike's in the Alamo basement.
Alamo.
When are we getting to the basement?
Yeah. That's such a good movie. That may be Tim Burton's best. Hey, we brought up two Tim Burton movies with the same basic plot.
Yeah. Yeah, I still kind of like the first Batman, even though everything after it kind of ate its lunch.
I would probably like it to see it again, but I've got zero urge to see it again.
Yeah, that's kind of how I am. That's like me in Endgame. No.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same way for about all movies. I've turned into a fragment viewer. I'll speed things up to the third act and watch a little of that and then turn it off because it didn't wrap up quick enough for me and that sort of thing.
My problem is, Ellis, and everyone always tells me, oh, you need to get Netflix. But my problem is I'll get on like Amazon Prime. I'll be looking for something to watch, and I can never decide on anything.
Yeah. You've got too many options. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as you scan through all of them, you think to yourself, now, what do I want to spend a solid hour and a half watching?
Exactly. I can watch.
There's nothing there that you think that satisfies that.
Yeah, nothing calls to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you just go, well, okay, I'll watch. I'll get out a DVD I've seen before.
Like it's it's almost like my old mom sit here and I would ask her, how can you stand to watch all those commercials? And that to her was TV. What are you talking about? I like the commercials.
There you go.
And she, this thing where I watched Joe Bob on Shudder, just because it's going to have breaks with Joe Bob on it. And he had on Henry, a portrait of a serial killer, and he had the director John McNaughton. And so he mentions another film John McNaughton has done that I don't believe I've ever seen all the way through, called Wild Things, with Kevin Bacon and I think it's another Kevin, the one that was in.
Yeah, I think that's the one where he's the teacher and he or a cop or something, and he's
Don't run it. Don't run it now. I understand it's got some wild and wicked stuff, so I want to see this one. But anyway, I rented it on Amazon, and I still haven't talked myself into seeing it because, like you say, it's an hour and a half of commitment to it.
Yeah.
Dillon.
Matt Dillon.
Matt Dillon, yeah. Matt Dillon. That name ought to be easy to remember. Yeah, Matt Dillon.
Yeah, no doubt.
Have you ever seen I believe Matt Dillon made 3 different movies based on S.E. Hinton's books. He made Tex, Rumblefish, and The Outsiders.
I have seen The Outsiders.
You've never seen Rumblefish, huh?
No.
Wow.
Didn't really care for The Outsiders that much. Sorry. I know it's an Oklahoma movie or Oklahoma book.
Tulsa book. Yep.
Oh, yeah, well,
that's what she wrote about, Tulsa.
We were in Tulsa, and we went. I drug my wife to an art supply store, which was very disappointing, by the way. And they had pictures up, and somebody was in there, and these stupid ladies literally were talking because they wrote the extras in The Outsiders. You know, I was like, well, what scene were you in, or whatever? I don't know what they were talking about. I was looking for art supplies, but I thought it was interesting because I was like, how long ago was that movie filmed? Yeah.
Been a while.
It's been a while, for sure.
Well, yeah, it'd be hard to find a movie so jam-packed with guys that were going to be having pretty good careers.
Oh, no doubt. I mean,
Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise, Matt Dillon. Come think of it, was Matt Dillon in The Outsiders? I'm not sure he was. That may have been the one he missed. Let me look.
Oh, I can't remember. I think so.
I'll look real quick. Let's see, now that I'm in Chrome, I got no idea how to do a search.
No, yeah. I use Chrome at work. I hate it.
I have to go to google.com. There we go. Matt Dillon. We'll find out. Internet Movie Database. Like the other guy was talking about how Dillon, he had basically a man crush on him was Richard Linklater. So, the guy that did Slackers. He was talking about, like, golly, the guy was in every good movie back then. He's kind of right. Yeah, he was Dallas Winston in The Outsiders. Of course, he was one of the main guys toward the end when the fatal shooting occurs, I think. Yeah, right together, 1982, 83, 83. He made those 3 S.E. Hinton movies.
Gotcha.
Another person that's crazy about him is Hinton. She really liked him.
Oh, yeah.
What?
What did you do today, Ellis?
Oh, I did some writing. I was pretty proud of my writing today. I wrote about a hunchback that loses his Siamese twin brother.
Wait, what? How do you lose your Siamese twin?
From violence. You want me to read it to you?
I don't know if I want you. How long is it?
It's not very long.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, let me open it again. Now it's going to dance around a little bit because it's still in rough form,
I got you.
and but you can probably tell where I'm at.
Yeah.
This is what I am calling morsel writing. I've got all these things with just a little header on them, and then I write according to the header, where I have a couple of notes on. I'll be and this one is called "The Buffet is Early." I'll be right back. I'm going to refill my water and be back in a second.
Okay.
You talk. Oh, well, let me focus on you first before I go.
Yeah, focus on me. I can check my focus to see if I'm on the.
There we go. You're it.
Am I it? Okay. So Ellis is gone to get water or coffee or something. So I'm drawing this scene where this guy gets his head blown off. Blown, I guess not technically off. Anyway, and so I'm drawing it from behind, so it's not graphic, but I want it to be obvious that he's not going to survive. This is more than a flesh wound. And originally, when I read the script, I thought there's one of these characters who wears sunglasses, and so I drew his sunglasses kind of blown apart, flying through the air. But then I realized it was the other guy, and that's what I did in the thumbnails, and so that kind of blew that out, that little trick. So I'm drawing a little bit of material here. I want to just really be that, and the point of this panel is just shocking. It's just like a shocking act of violence that kind of shocks the characters, because she's talking to this guy, and you can see in this one she's got like blood and stuff on her face. And so she's talking to this guy, and all of a sudden somebody comes up behind him and shoots him in the back of the head. And it's kind of like, okay, now I got your attention. Here's what we're gonna do. It's like, holy cow. Anyway, if you have not watched any of these before, I've talked about what I'm inking. I'm inking a comic book called Heaven's Rejects, and it's about angels that get kicked out of heaven. And they come to Earth, but they get sent to Earth, basically, or banished to Earth, I guess is probably a better way to put that. They get banished to Earth, and they have to kind of find their way around, so to speak. And so they make some bad choices, really, and they get involved with this lady right here, who's basically a demon. And they kind of and she basically offers them a job, which they take because they're desperate for cash, and so that's kind of what's going on here is they're trying to be nice to these other guys, or they're trying to kind of diffuse a tense situation, and she just blows this guy's head off. It's like, hey, now pay attention. Anyway, so that's what I'm drawing now. Is this
cool.
Brain matter and stuff, just kind of exiting. I'm not going to reference anything for this. I just want to look violent,
Well, do you want to hear this thing?
Yeah,
I'll be curious to your reaction, considering that it is just totally context free. If you can kind of tell, this is going to be late in the film or the script.
Wait, is this part of your comic that you're working on, or is this something you just wrote?
Well, it could potentially turn into a comic book. I don't know. It's right now. I want to do the awe-inspiring task of writing a decent script. I want to just get real comfortable with the format of like a final draft and all that.
Okay.
Which this is not formatted for a script yet. So in other words, it won't always be saying interior, exterior. So here we go. Grace is hooded. The stone phallus towers over her. Grace is bound, hands and feet stretch her across the ball of stone at the base.
Whoa.
Grace's hood is ripped off her head by Basil. She tops Faye's race. She tops Fay Ray's scream when first seen calm. Her POV, the behemoth in the background. Red is nearly naked, eyes glowing blue. Smoke comes from his nose and mouth regularly. The scream excites all the gibbering ghosts.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've decided context-free. This is impossible to understand. Okay. Red laughs and the behemoth roars in a cadence that matches Red's laughter. Basil dances. Yeah. Without knowing who the characters are, this can't be read to somebody. Never mind. I'm dropping it.
Keep going. You started.
Okay. Well, now I got to open it again. I got disappointed in myself for realizing how impossible it is.
No, I was with you, man.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Basil and Micah. Okay, well, first let me read this little part. Basil jumped, because this will introduce you to Basil and Micah. And I'll just read this part. Basil jumps down from the wagon, stripping his coat off with the help of the ghost minions. These are things that have come out of the hole that you can almost see through, that amount to being twins of everybody in town. But they're little monsters. Okay, he starts unbuttoning his shirt with the help of the ghost minions. Basil, lovely Grace. Abel and Grace stand together, Abel behind Grace, holding her arms. Grace thinks Basil is thinking rape, laughs at him. Grace, just try. You are not for me, you are for Red, isn't she, Micah, as he finishes taking his shirt off. Girl is horrified when Basil's naked torso reveals a little head on his shoulder. His hump. It's a grotesque head forming a failed resemblance to Basil, with beautiful white hair, asymmetrical eyes, and one vestigial twiggy arm. Micah, humphead, gasps an intake of fresh air. Ah. Oh my God, Grace, oh my God. Micah, yes, she is the master's bride tonight. He has waited too long for the right one. Grace says, I'm marrying Red, that gross, awful Indian savage. Basil slaps her. Basil, explain to her, little brother. Micah, humphead, explains, spitting mad at her. He is gatekeeper to the elder beings, life older than this world, moving through levels of existence that would drive any mortal man mad. Basil and Micah scream together. He is Balaam, brother to the behemoth, Baleem. An unearthly roar comes up the wooded hill. The ground rumbles again. The ghost minions gibber and warble. Basil slides into a robe handed to him by a ghost minion. I've decided that should be a tunic. By ghost minion. It has a hole for Micah. Micah tidies his neckline with his twiggy arm. Basil, make her ready. Three of the albinos grab her. This was not part of our agreement. Grace twists loose and kicks one of them to the ground. Abel steps in and twists her arm behind her back. Abel, by the way, is the identical twin of our hero, who has assumed he's been dead for years and years. And here they're going to meet again tonight. Grace, I know who you are. Your brother is here, Abel. He loves you. He thinks about you every day. Abel, stern. I think about him every day. Abel hands Grace, struggling, back to the ghosts. Grace, slimy frogs. Basil, you and your brother may meet again tonight, Abel. Close up Micah, humphead, laughing and derisive. Yes, this is what Cain does. He rescues people, everyone except his brother. Micah repeats, doubly abused. Everyone except his brother. Micah stops laughing and speaking. as Abel's 45 appears in front of his mouth. I know someone that's about to lose a brother. Grace, don't, Abel. Micah, humphead. I'm adding that for the sake of maybe deciding whether or not I add it later. Micah looks quickly at Grace, surprised by her empathy for him. Because I want that to build a little bit, because later on Micah's going to be important to saving all of them. The hump is going to be important to saving all of them. Abel, I'll go see about Cain, see how he did. He's lucky after all. Quickly holsters his gun. Micah sighs in relief. Basil, conciliatory, yes, you know best. Red would like that. Abel spits on the ground. Grace, Abel, you're good. Help me. Help Cain. Help your brother. Abel is mounting. Abel is mounting his horse. The horse seems linked to unspoken commands from Abel. Abel takes his hat off. Reaction shot from Grace. Close up, the top of Abel's head is bare, translucent, showing his brain. He puts his hat back on. Maybe he'll sell me on that idea before I shoot him between the eyes. Enjoy your honeymoon. Enjoy your honeymoon. The horse turns and trots off. Grace, bastard. Basil takes a bundle from the ghost minion. Wonderful actress Grace. Now you must dress for your greatest role. Presents the black and red slinky gown she is supposed to wear. Basil commands, prepare her. The ghost minions mob Grace, burying her beneath them as her clothes are ripped off and thrown out of the writhing pile. Grace, muffled but loud, get off! Close up of Micah as a tear rolls from his best eye. So that is sort of the world, and I've got some. It takes till the halfway point before things get weird. So when they get weird,
Wait, was this okay? So this was after they get weird, right?
Yeah, this is after they get weird.
Okay.
I mean, this is things getting weird. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if they were going to get weirder.
Yeah, no, they get kind of weird, but I'm having a lot of fun with it because it amounts to having just what I call morsel writing. It's kind of like that flash fiction. I would write an idea down, and then sit down long enough to flesh it out, and I find I can handle that. I can beginning, middle, and end that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I'll sit down and I'll completely do a little short note on something. And so that's that. And I get the inspiration for naming things in this way all the way through it in an outline. It's obviously an outline of sorts, but it's also like your DVD chapter titles.
Oh yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. Before it's a DVD, I'm giving it chapter titles.
Gotcha. Well,
or if it was a book, it could be a chapter title. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever gets you through the thing, Yeah.
So, comic book wise, what did you guys talk about the last Better Than Fiction you guys were involved with?
Oh, I can't. We hadn't got together for a couple of weeks because Barry's been real busy at work. We're probably behind, honestly.
Wow, that's amazing. You guys can be behind as much as. Dave is a stickler for content getting pumped out.
Yeah, I think we. But we missed a couple weeks. Then I missed last week, and then Dave was in Dallas, and then I was in Arkansas. So
yeah.
And the big thing is Barry's been having to work. I have a feeling that we're recording this Friday, though. Hey, did I talk to you about going to the ghost tour?
Oh, that's cool that you got yeah, you did. And I kind of said, nah, I don't think so.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, I think I did. That's cool. You've got the barrel exposed, part of the action of the gun shooting, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, I tried to make it, realistic.
Mm-hmm. So it's the kickback action where the shell has already been
Yes, that's the shell right there.
Yeah,
See it.
yeah.
I'm debating inking that. I got a sound effect right there called "Bam," and I think I'm gonna ink the sound effect and then do more of the explosion around the hand.
Hmm.
I think that'll make it kind of a cool looking panel. Normally, I would do the sound effect in the computer, but I think in this case,
Hand lettering, people always like the extra effort. I think. I mean, it just warms it up. It's like talking
well,
about warm sound on what you get from old
I
records.
I, I definitely like it for sound effects. Because sound effects I think have to kind of fit within the story
Yeah.
or with the page. But you know, so you're out on the ghost tour,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
okay, or the haunted tour, I guess it's called.
It's
Okay,
our friend Jeff Provine shows up at all the Oklahoma comic book conventions selling his books.
yeah. Well,
He's a good writer.
he's the publisher of a local. If you don't live in Oklahoma City, or maybe you do, you don't know about this, but there's a magazine called Okie Comics that Jeff started. It's a free comic magazine. It's kind of an anthology thing, but I mean, it's free. He gives it out all over the place, and he gets his revenue from advertising, which I
Yeah.
guess he's well enough to keep it.
I'll stick a link in Okie Comics, and you can send
Yeah,
for a $3 copy.
they both have
Or that's what charges you for it. That's just about shipping, I would imagine.
the Ellis and I both drawn stories in it. I've drawn two, I think. How many have you drawn? Have you drawn?
I've got two that I drew from Jeff's scripts, and then the one I drew for Matt Price. We also got stuck in Okie Comics, The Grave. So that was kind of fun to see that.
That's cool.
Mhm. So,
Um,
so I've had three, and I've got one in this most current issue.
oh, do you really? Is the
It's
grave
a,
story?
it's a story on the Dust Bowl, 3-page strip.
Oh gosh,
It's
I didn't
kind
really done that much work for him.
of, well, 3-page strip here, 8-page strip there. Yeah,
Hey, after a while, it all adds up, man.
it does.
I have had to turn down all work offers. I got to draw this thing, man.
Yeah, past a certain point, that kind of stuff. You
Well,
you really have to pick your shots on it. You want to be.
well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like I do, I've got an opportunity to, and I have a publisher, so I need to get this done.
Mhm.
I think, I mean, everybody's cool because they know, like, I got a day job and stuff, but I don't want to. The publisher keeps getting bigger and bigger, man, and I'm worried they'll get so big that they'll go, we don't like this. We don't want to do this, and they'll put me out of the book.
Or that.
But because we don't really have a contract, we have kind of, and the writers don't work with them, so I'm not worried we'll get stiffed or whatever. But I just don't want it to. I don't want to lay anybody down.
Well, at that point, you'd be stuck with something that
Yeah, I couldn't do anything with it. Well, we
couldn't
could.
do anything with it without the agreement of the guy that wrote it for you.
Right. Well,
I guess you could repurpose it. You could put
no.
totally different balloons on it and make it your own story in some way or other.
Yeah, that. I mean, I don't. Yeah, at this point, I'd be like, if this does not, if this doesn't get published, I don't know if I have the heart to. I put so much into this, it would crush me if this didn't, you know, work out. It doesn't have to be big, but I want, I work. I've done so many projects, Ellis, that I mean, I've gotten paid for, but they haven't gone anywhere. Like I'll work on them, and then it'll be like, well, we thought we had a deal, and
I thought you had a great little project in that little kind of noir New Orleans thing you had going on. I
yeah,
thought
we
that was really good.
find a publisher. I did the whole first issue, and when we started, I suggested that we do a crime story because at the time crime stories are really big,
Yeah.
and we just missed the wave, man. Timing is
A
everything.
good heist story. Yeah, you bet.
Timing and luck. I did for any listeners. I did a story called "The Big Easy Score." Is written by a guy named Brian Tanner. I met Brian. Well, let me give you a little more of the story. I don't know how you may know this, Ellis, or you may not. Uh,
I
I
heard it, some of it.
Well, several years ago, Stevie Sobolski was the talent scout at Marvel Comics, and he had me email another guy that was the talent scout, who I won't say because they don't work in comics anymore. It's for Amazon, but he said email this guy and tell him to send you the latest batch of tryout scripts. So I emailed him, and I did for about 8 months. I did four. I did an X Men. Oh no, I did a Wolverine. I did an X Men. I did a Runaways, and I did an Avengers story.
Wow. Jeez, that's a lot of trying out.
Oh yeah, and I did about 6 pages on each one. Oh, I
Man,
did,
why?
and well, I thought it was going. I thought it would might turn into something. And the Avengers one, I'm really happy with. In fact, I still keep that Avengers one in my portfolio because it's from a Bendis script, and it takes place initially. It takes place in Times Square, and there was a shot. The script references stuff that I just knew exactly where it was at. It references the old Toys R Us, and so I was like, man, I got to draw that, and so I drew it, and it looked awesome. I think that was the last one I did, or next to the last one, and so I took it to Chicago with me one year, and to C2E2, and I went to the how to draw comic or how to break into Comics panel, and this guy stood up and he goes, "I know everybody here is an artist, but I'm a writer. How does a writer break into comics?" And they said, "Well, you got to find an artist to work with an artist." And so I told Dave, I go, "I'm gonna go talk to that guy." And so, because I figured anybody that would stand up and ask that, knowing that they weren't going to get a good answer, because
Yeah, that sort of thing is so much easier nowadays with all the social media stuff.
oh yeah, but so I went and talked to the guy, and I said, "Hey, I saw you." I said, "I'm an artist." I said, "I don't know if you want to work together on something, but here's my sample. Can I give you a copy of my sample? It's got my contact info. Look at it. Take it home. Look at it. If you like it, contact me, and maybe we can work on something." And he searched me out on the show floor the next day and said, "Dude, I'd love to work with you on something." And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he goes, "Well," and neither one of us had any contacts in the industry. And I said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And he said, "No, no." I said, "You know what we ought to do?" I said, "We ought to do a crime." There was a lot of crime fiction, crime books. I said, crime seems to be big. We could do a crime book. There'd be all these people out there we could pitch it to. Well, that was at the time that was a great idea. There were a lot of crime books on the floor. The problem was, we missed the wave because what happened, and we had a real good um Viper Comics was really interested in it, and one of the editors emailed me and said, "I'm we're doing our monthly pitch meeting like next week. I'm going to take. I like your book so much. I'm going to take it. I think this is what I'm going to take to the pitch meeting." And I said, "Cool." And he said, "I will let you know how it goes." And what they did is they went and three editor they would take this stuff. We had the whole first issue done. So they take it and and we had a whole pitch package with the synopsis and everything. And so they went and all everybody thought it was cool, but and there were three of them. And all three of them had to like something. for them to do it. Everybody liked it except for one guy goes, you know, we're getting out of crime comics. We want to do something different. We don't want.
They didn't make any money on them, probably.
Probably not.
You arrive to some place where the bottom line pushes back at you, and you don't win that battle. It's like someone says, "No, if we're not going to make money, I'm not going to promise you any money to do it." For one thing, yeah.
Yeah, and the good thing that came out of that really though that really kind of launched my comics career such as it is,
Mm-hmm.
because I told the guy, I go, well, did you guys like the art? And they go, well, yeah, we love the art. And I said, well, I could draw something, just because I got this, I'll draw something, which probably was kind of a dick move of me, to be honest with you. But we had no, that was the closest thing we got to an offer for the deal. And so they gave me a script. I did a 16-page vampire story. I forget the name of it, for a horror anthology that never got off the ground. But what it did is it was announced and it was on their website and everything. So I was able to use that to get more work, because it's like, oh yeah, I'm working on this deal. I just did this and I'm looking for work. And once you kind of start getting work, people will treat you. It's weird. It's like once you're like being a made man in the mafia or something.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start getting work, then more work will come your
way.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to jump right in and say that I was the one who's right. It's quietly, not quietly. Frank quietly.
Quietly?
Quietly, not quietly.
Okay, you won this time.
I win. No, I wasn't trying to win or anything, but
no.
I just always, I think he probably had some of my typical dyslexia. When you're looking at it, you're reading quietly, and it's quite clearly quietly written as quietly.
Yeah. Hey, I'm done with that panel.
All right.
Can you see it?
Yeah, let me focus on you. There we go. Yeah, pretty good. That always bugs me when people don't have their perspective right on what a gun is aiming at.
Well,
but that looks like it's shooting where you got the perspective going. Yep.
It's blowing that cat's head off.
Yeah. I've always been baffled by that in movies where someone will stick a gun in as a menace. Yeah. And they'll stick it in and it's obvious that they mean for you to accept the idea that the bullet's path is going to strike a person that's framed up in the frame. That you can just tell if you've ever shot a gun, it's not going anywhere near the person that's framed up. Hey, as you're doing that thing, that pecked, I mean, look at where it terminates at the top. It's that pectoral.
The pec.
Yeah. I mean, you ought to go about halfway down on that for making a line for the terminus of that. Because, I mean.
Right here? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, but.
I'm talking about here. I need to make his shoulder bigger.
Yeah.
But
again, it's all about that measurement. That whole, see, to me, it's the veer up and going left. Just erase all that and go down about halfway with the line of that. Try that with your eraser. Just erase. You can always draw it over again. No, that line, go up to the top where you formed a Y. Now erase that Y and go all the way halfway down. And see if that doesn't look better. There you go.
Like that?
Yeah.
No, it's crazy. No.
No. Don't draw so much. your terminus on that pect has got to stop way before then. Yeah, it's a little more like it, but yeah,
Is that better?
yeah, it looks a little better. Yeah, doesn't that look better to you? That's the one that's important to look better too. Doesn't that automatically look
Yeah,
better?
I know what you're saying. What you're saying is you're saying the deltoid wraps over it.
Yeah, I'm saying that if you want to draw that line, it's gotta be a radiation that's following the contour of what you want to draw. It's all like I say. I also I showed off my Vampirella earlier when I
Yeah.
was fighting dead air, and I made the point that drawing is measuring again. That I'm the guy who says it all the time. I just pointed out what a dud that was in terms of like my ability to that measuring that I did for her.
Hey, how did your one drawing do?
Which drawing?
Oh, what was the guitar guy or what? No, the last one.
No, I think the last. Oh, the guitar guy.
Not
Oh, yeah, Mike Miller's Lone Star. Well,
Loans.
that was digital, and I did do pretty well. I
Oh, it's
placed pretty
digital.
well. Yeah.
Why are you working digital? Tell this
Well,
stuff.
I know it screws me on the
Yeah,
auction later.
dude, you can't be drawing digital.
It was an experiment though to do a painting, and it came out.
Experiment on your own dime.
Yeah,
Oh, I guess you did.
yeah, it cost me money basically because
Well,
that,
but
that auction usually is pretty good.
it was a successful experiment.
Hmm.
Well, I was curious because you said your Vampirilla didn't sell very well.
Right.
So I was curious if you had redeemed yourself in your
No,
eyes, at least. I mean,
no, not yet.
you will.
Well, no. I mean, last week's the Lone Star did a pretty decent pose on that one. And
How did you do though? I mean, in the competition?
it is a competition, and like I say, I finished right smack in the middle,
Oh, well, that's
which is good for me since I usually totally bring up the rear. I'm
what
usually
did your Vampirilla do? Vampirilla didn't do good, did it? Or did it?
no, it did not do good. It was next to last or last.
Oh man.
But it's so silly. I think if I was next to last, I beat out a guy that just totally smoked me in terms of like what his artwork looked like. So it's like just the whim of the crowd in terms of how they vote.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's part of its appeal.
Yeah.
So what are you going to draw tonight? Mad Max?
Mad Max, maybe.
Thumbnails done?
I did do a thumbnail, just thinking kind of aloud. Let's see if we got
on the screen. Let's see it.
Well, I just drew a big, drew that. Here, I'll put it on me. I've left it on you for a pretty long time.
Put on you for a while.
There we go. I don't know. It's kind of blurry, of course.
Hang on, I'm gonna take my phone off the thing.
Oh, that's all right. It's just a big messy car wreck with him airborne with holding the steering wheel in his hand. I thought that would be good. So anyway, that's as much as I've done for it. You see it?
Yeah, I could see it.
It's hard to see. It's hard to make out. So anyway, you want to call this the end of the show? So I'm getting all hoarse and everything.
It's 8 if you want to. We can, I guess.
Oh, is it already 8? Yeah, I better. Okay, and I think this Mad Max is going to go over really big for everybody. So let me take it off me. Do you want to sign out and say anything?
Yeah. Yeah, I can say something. If you want to check out more of my artwork, follow me on Instagram. My Instagram, I got a lot of followers lately. I don't know if it's from this or not. You can listen to my podcast, Scott at Midnight. It's available on iTunes and on Spurker and a couple other places. I have a YouTube channel. Don't put a lot on my YouTube channel. The big thing I would say is if you want to see more of my art, look on Instagram. I do have a webpage, it's scottsackett.org. That's
Cool.
probably it. I'm on Facebook. You can friend me on Facebook.
And you'll friend back, huh?
Oh yeah, I'm a friendly guy.
All right. Well, and I'm Ellis. I've brought this hangout to you tonight. So, Scott, we'll see you soon next week. We've decided to do this every week, haven't we?
Yeah, we'll do it next week.
We'll see if we can get these guys that claim they wanted to show up and didn't show up.
Oh yeah, well it's easy to talk.
Yep.
Okay, is that all?
That's it. We'll see you. Good night.
Okay, see you. Good night.